All right, everybody. We're going to be getting into how to read the profit map. Now, this is what I always call kind of like the matrix, or like, so this is, I mentioned this before at another point in time where the, whenever I get to this map, it feels like I'm reading the numbers on the screen that are coming down in the matrix. If you don't know the matrix, it is what it is, but there's a scene in the matrix where the person's like, how do you know what you're looking at? And the guy's like, well, after some time, you just like are able to see things in the numbers and whatnot. And I feel like it's an absolute perfect example for what it feels like when you really understand what's going on with this profit map. You literally can just see things sort of coming to life and like popping out and showing themselves as you go through. And so, what I really want to do here is make sure that I want you to be able to do the exact same thing, right? Like, I want you to be able to feel the exact same way. And there's certain things that you need to understand to be looking for, right? Um, to make that happen, right? So I'm going to teach you everything that I'm thinking about when I'm looking at this map that helps me see everything come to life, right? Now, by this point, you will have already learned about all the different neighborhoods within your city or the city that you're planning on going to or whatever it may be. And you have a general idea of where some good neighborhoods could be, where some bad neighborhoods, like where to go, where to not go. Maybe you have selected about a handful of neighborhoods, maybe 3 to 5 that you want to look a little bit more into. Generally, like if you're in a big city, the closer the neighborhood is to the downtown or the downtown itself, the more profitable it's going to be, right? Doesn't mean there's not profit in those far away neighborhoods, but anyways, that's for I've probably already covered all of that in the other video. So the thing I want to teach you here is what to be thinking about, how to be looking at this profit map, and trying to understand what to look for, right? So let's get into it. Once again, we got our neighborhoods on the left hand side and we have our unit sizes up top. Now, this thing right here on the right hand side is really annoying because it always pops up. So I'll close it, and the second I touch in here, it's going to pop back up. It is what it is. But you're just going to be closing it a lot, is essentially what I'm getting at. And so what I do, right? I'm just going to walk you through my thoughts with this, and I'm going to be making a checklist afterwards so that you can have everything, because I know there's a lot of little pieces that I'm going to say that maybe you'll record, write them down. That's great, but I'm just going to try and make sure that I cover as much as possible. But what I'm looking for here is the trends that I like to see. So I want to see consistency. I want to see growth in revenue from unit size to unit size, and I want to see locations that are doing better than other spots. I want to see areas that have a lot of units, right? So let me just walk through, okay? First, I always start in the smaller units and then work my way up higher, mainly because these smaller units are going to be where there's going to be a lot of Airbnbs. The majority of Airbnbs are 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. And so when you get into like the 4 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms and whatnot, it comes a little bit more sporadic, like spotty, where and kind of harder to read. So I'm going to start over here in the smaller units and show you what I'm looking for. Right, right off the bat, I'll start with the smallest unit, and I'll look at all the numbers within this in that range. Right, um, one thing I like instantly what I'm thinking is, how many listings are we actually looking at here? And so what I want to do is go over to the average and change this to count, which is something that I've already shown you how to do. And I want to know how many listings I'm looking at because I don't want to get screwed up. Now, one thing that's going to happen here is these neighborhoods are actually going to get out of order because of the way that I have this organized is based off of a way that I had to do it before. But regardless, I just want to see, for the most part, there's a lot of listings. There's a lot of like I'm seeing a lot of listings here as well. So I know that these numbers, when I look at them, they're going to be accurate, right? I'm going to avoid these two. I'm actually just going to hide them both right now because I don't find them useful. I'm not trying to open up any of those type of units. So I'm going to hide those. 2 bedroom, 1 bath. I can see once again lots of listings, or yeah, lots of listings, quite a bit of listings, like a little bit less, but still a good amount. In here, we're seeing way less, so I'm actually going to hide the two bedroom, 2.5 bath. So still a good amount of listings, not a lot here, so hiding that too, getting rid of that. There's a decent amount. So I'm going to be able to look at all of these numbers in these smaller units and feel very confident that the average annual revenue is based off of a lot of different listings, right? When I get over to this section, I can see that there's a lot less listings, and so therefore there's a lot less data. And so I'm going to be a little bit more cautious when I actually look at these numbers, and I'll kind of have to bounce back and forth between, number of listings and annual revenue. But right now I can just cleanly take a look at this, and I'm going to change this back to the average. So I just clicked anywhere and this little thing pops back up. So let's go back to average. And now what I want to see is I want to see how these neighborhoods are stacking up against each other. And so what I mean by that is if I were to just look at the studios and scroll down, what I'm seeing is that this neighborhood, the Loop, which is right downtown, has the highest revenue, followed by River West, which I know this neighborhood is a little bit more of a high-end neighborhood and can probably charge a little bit more for a studio. They're probably better units, and so it's still close to downtown. Um, I'm seeing right here, 30,000 near Northside. Once again, very close to downtown, a good area. It's pulling in nice revenue, and then these numbers are all generally around the exact same amount, and they're all a little bit further away from the city itself. And I know that there's high rises in these buildings or in these locations, and not as many high rises in these sections. So odds are these ones are doing better because they're high rises, right? Like that's once again, you got to know your neighborhoods, know what you're looking at for this to become as useful as you need it to be. Now, if I didn't know my neighborhoods, I didn't know everything, I would look at this and say, well, why? I wonder why these people are actually like these areas are doing better than these areas, and then it's just a matter of going into the city and trying to understand that, right? One thing I noticed here is that way down here in Irving Park, there's a 45,000, and I know this area is really far away from the city and it's not that popular of a place, and the revenue is really high. So I'm assuming that there's just not a lot of listings there because that doesn't make any sense. So that's a trend. So you can see like outside of the downtown core, everyone's doing around this $20,000 range, $20,000 to $25,000 range. So for this one neighborhood to be doing way more, that just instantly tells me that's bad data. There's something off, something wrong, and that's what you need to be thinking as well. When you see these numbers that just don't make sense, instantly go, I don't trust it. It's most likely wrong. And like 99.9% of the time, it is going to be wrong data. It's going to be bad information. There's probably just like one listing here that got through my process that is bad data and it's showing wrong information. So it is what it is. It's going to happen, but just always think of that as you're going through. Be like, okay, what it is, what it is. So instantly, right off the bat, I'm going, all right. So these downtown neighborhoods are performing well. These ones are showing some good consistency. That gives me a general idea of how studios do. And then what I would do is I would just keep going through and doing the exact same thing. Now, obviously, a one bedrooms are kind of doing the same thing. I can kind of see a one bedroom picking up better in Old Town than it is in River West for whatever reason. But for the most part, these guys are all kind of around the same range. And now I also know that I know the city, right? I know the neighborhoods, and I know that the downtown area is going to have really nice small units, right? Because they're going to be in these big buildings. Whereas these more like neighborhood type areas that are just outside the city are going to have more of the homes and larger apartments because there's more land. And so those areas of neighborhoods are going to have better off like 4 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms in comparison, right? So I kind of know that already. And so when I'm going through this, like I can see the proof of that in the revenue numbers, right? I can see the proof that these downtown core areas with the better, smaller units are performing better. And that's kind of like an intuitive thing to know. Like you probably think like, well, obviously if I have a 1 bedroom, 1 bath with views of the city in the downtown, it's going to do better than like a 1 bedroom, 1 bath in a neighborhood that's, 10 minutes away from the city. And that's obvious, but I love to see the numbers actually popping that out and proving that like, hey, look at higher revenue when you go to these areas. And so that's what we're looking for, right? Now, an interesting thing is that if we keep going, we see that the 2 bedroom, 2 baths in this area, so right downtown, so you have the near north side and the loop, are doing really well, and then all of the other ones are grouped in together around this $45,000 to $55,000 profit range, right? So and then there's a $20,000 difference if you were to be in the loop or near north side. Once again, high rise buildings. What's interesting is how this River West area is doing as well as everywhere else, which means that those buildings that are in River West are they're bigger, they're nicer, whatever it may be, but they don't really do really well with the 2 bedrooms. But what I can see is they do well with the studios. So now that tells me like, okay, I should probably look at studios if I'm in River West and not a 2 bedroom, 2 bath. That's just how you need to understand this. Like certain units do better in other in certain locations and vice versa. It's just how it is. So instantly, like I'm really liking what I see here. Really high revenue for a 2 bedroom, 2 bath for those areas, and I'm probably going to avoid it for all of these areas, right? And the idea is I can keep going, but what, like I already said, once you get past these, you go from 2 bedroom to 3 bedroom, you're getting into larger units, and the trend of the type of units are changing. The data is becoming more sporadic. And so before I continue to do that, what I want to do is more of a horizontal look. So I want to look at a specific neighborhood on its own rather than the unit sizes. So we were just going through, okay, what are the unit sizes comparison throughout these different cities? What I now want to do is how does the unit size how are these unit sizes performing within their own neighborhood if I were to go all the way across, right? And the reason I like to do this is because I want to find neighborhoods that have good trends. A good trend is where the revenue is steadily increasing with each new bedroom that is added on, right? So you want to see that kind of gradual growth. And I like to see that because I want to see the consistency in the numbers. And when I see that consistency, it tells me that if I were to go and open up a listing there, I most likely will do just as well as everybody else because it's sort of a mature area, and I have a good idea of how well that unit will do in that area, right? It's not like it's oversaturated. Don't go there. It's like no, like that. This unit's going to make me roughly $75,000 a year because there's five other that are doing the exact same thing. So if I pop the sixth one open, it'll roughly do around $75,000 as well. That's my logic that has been working for me extremely well, and you should use the exact same logic when going through it. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to look at each individual neighborhood. Okay, so I see that right off the bat we're looking at near north side, so we can see 30,000 for the studio, and then it increases to 33,000, increases to 54,000, increases to 77,000. Very consistent. Love seeing this. We can see there's a steep decrease on the 3 bedroom 1 bath. I know why, and the reason is because 3 bedroom 1 bath is a very, very old unit design, right? And so these are old. This is an old building within a new neighborhood, and most likely there's probably a few like this is probably not that great of data either. But I also so once again I know my neighborhood and I know what to expect when I see this. Okay, and then we get to the 3 bedroom 2 bath. You can see a huge increase. So that tells me it's a very consistent neighborhood. So that tells me it's a good neighborhood I could go into. I can expect things if I go in there, right? Revenue wise, if I perform well as an Airbnb host. And then I want to go to the next one. So the loop, I can see a studio does about 44. 1 bedroom 1 bath actually drops off. That concerns me right off the bat. I'm like, well, why is that, right? I would want to try and figure out a little bit more. I genuinely don't have a reason of why that may be. So what I would have to do is actually go into that data, kind of learn it a little more. But for the most part, I'm like, okay, right. Move on, and we see that the 2 bedroom 1 bath does 59,000. Move forward 79,000. So it's that nice gradual increase. 3 bedrooms doing 93,000. Once again, really liking those numbers. River West, same idea. What I don't like to see in River West. So River West right away is kind of giving me like a not that great of a feeling because we got really high studio and then $10,000 drop on a 1 bedroom. Then we have no 2 bedroom 1 baths, but then we have a 2 bedroom 2 bath that is doing similar to a studio. So that's not very consistent. That doesn't make me feel good. No 3 bedroom 1 baths. It's understandable, but then a nice increase on a 3 bedroom 2 bath. So I don't like seeing that sort of up down changing. I want it to be gradual all the way build up because we want the consistency, we want those trends. So like River West, instantly I'm kind of going, I'm not really feeling it. I don't want to spend my time on a neighborhood that is inconsistent like that. I don't really want to try and figure it out, right? So I'm just going to kind of leave it as is. Then I'm going to go to Old Town, and you can see 25 to 33 to 35. So that's interesting that there's not a big difference between these two here. But then there is a nice jump once again up to 2 bedroom 2 bath, and I can see there's almost no 3 bedrooms. So once Old Town is telling me a little bit of like that's odd. Like why is that? Why are these two so close together? And I once again I know Old Town, and I know that it's a very small location, so maybe that's why there's no 3 bedrooms that are showing up, whatever it may be. I do like seeing that right there. This is the only number that's tripping me up, and it's like, okay, it is what it is, right? And then you just kind of keep doing this for every single location, and it's giving you a better feel for how Airbnbs perform within each one of those locations, right? It's telling you this is a solid neighborhood to be in, or this is an inconsistent neighborhood to be in, or it's telling you these unit sizes are doing better in this neighborhood than that neighborhood, right? So now, like when I like these are the thoughts that are going through my head when I pull up one of these profit maps. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, it looks like I can see some strong numbers in these first two neighborhoods. The numbers get a little bit more inconsistent as I go deeper into the lower, or sorry, into the other neighborhoods. The numbers are becoming a little more consistent. The revenue is dropping down, and it kind of makes me want to like push more towards these neighborhoods, right? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I want to focus on that a little bit more. That's where the profit is. That's where things are consistent. That's where trends are. Like those are the thoughts that are just continually going through my head, and that's what I want you to be thinking about as well as you're going through. Now, mind you, you also know your neighborhoods. And the idea here, okay, I probably should have mentioned this right off the bat, is that data allows you to not have a bias in a sense, sort of. Okay, so a lot of us will have a bias and say like, this part of the neighborhood, I looked it up, and people said it's a great spot, and this is where you want to be, and this is what you want to do, and that's where you want to go. But what will happen is when you look at the data, you're going to see if that's either a good neighborhood or not, right? So somebody could have told me and been like, River West is the best neighborhood to be in for Airbnb for whatever reason. They're like, oh, it's a great neighborhood, it's an amazing neighborhood. Maybe they don't know that it's the best neighborhood to be in for Airbnb, but they're like, oh, it's an up and coming neighborhood, it's such a cool place, it's like blah 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 blah, whatever the reason may be. But when I look at the data for Airbnb, I can see that there's a lot of inconsistencies with the profitability of that neighborhood, and so on an Airbnb level, if you were to think of like as a hotel, if I were to be opening up a hotel, right, which is you're essentially what you're doing, you wouldn't want to go to River West because that's going to be some inconsistency, and it's going to you're not going to feel confident there, is essentially what I'm getting at. And so the data will actually allow you to know if a neighborhood is very profitable or not, right? And I remember I talked to one of my students recently who was saying, like I went through Dallas with them and went through all the different information on Dallas, and they're like, wow, this is actually really useful because I was looking at this neighborhood and now I can tell it's not a good neighborhood to be in. And so I love hearing that because it's like, yes, exactly. Let the numbers tell you where to go. Don't let your feelings or somebody else tell you where to go, right? The amount of realtors that I had that told me, oh, you want to be in this area, and every single area that they mentioned was always wrong, but the data would tell me where the good areas actually were. Okay, so that's what you're going to be getting from this. We can see, okay, I'm feeling a lot more confident about near north side. I'm feeling confident about the loop, things like that, right? Now, next step, what do we do from here? Where do we go from here? We want to move into these sort of larger units and get a feel for these. As you can see, it's very spotty and sporadic. The way that I like to go about it when I get to this section is I just look for the larger numbers, okay? Because there's a lot of inconsistency now with this data, and it's not as useful. You can't just kind of go across and go down. Like not every neighborhood has 4 bedrooms in them. Not every neighborhood has 3 bedrooms in them. And so what you want to do here is you're now just trying to look for what are the highest revenue numbers within these specific neighborhoods, right? So obviously, when I look at the 3 bedroom, 2 baths, I can see these higher the same neighborhoods once again performing really well. These ones performing okay, with these ones doing really poorly. Then if I go to like the 3 bedroom, 3 bath, which are kind of like the luxury units, I can tell that there's not a lot of them, right? And then I'm gonna actually just close up these ones here because there's not a lot of data points. Oh, let me close those up. Not a lot of data points here. Come on, there we go. Hide. Right. So now we're just looking at the. Every single time I click, this freaking thing pops up. It's so annoying. So, anyways, now we're looking at the 4 bedrooms, and I'm just trying to spot where's the highest revenue. And I can see right here, I see 80,000, I see 126,000, 94,000, 83,000. I see over here there's kind of one-off number, but there's no other 4 bedrooms, so that kind of makes me cautious. I can see here there's 2 numbers that I don't feel very confident about those 2 numbers. I'm seeing a gradual trend here, but it's a very inconsistent trend once again. This is kind of like an average, so these 2 are doing about the exact same. If I were to just ignore this half bath, you can see there's a big jump from this one to this one. Anyway, so you can kind of tell. So what's funny about this is that this right here, the one where it just kind of does show some trend wise, right? Or at least there's a lot of 4 bedrooms. This is the neighborhood that I actually focused in on the most because these numbers pulled me in when I was first looking into things, right? I was like, ooh, these are some pretty numbers. They're nice and big. Now, mind you, when we're looking at this, there's a lot of inconsistency in these numbers here, but the reason most likely is because the number of bathrooms. We are splitting this up, but technically these are all 4 bedrooms, right? But as you know, with all the information I talk about, is that a 4 bedroom, 2 bath will make less than a 4 bedroom, 3 bath, and you need to know that, right? And these half baths make a difference as well. And so what I know by looking at this is that I'm seeing a lot of 4 bedrooms. So I know that 4 bedrooms most likely do, and they're doing fairly well across the board, like $80,000 and up, even though there is inconsistencies. And so this has intrigued me enough to actually want to like dive a little deeper into it and try and figure out exactly what I could expect from these type of units, right? And try to understand them a little bit more. And so the idea, all right, I guess the grand scheme, the grand idea that we're trying to pull out of this whole purpose of going through this entire map, right? The grand scheme of trying to figure all this out is to try and figure out where we want to look a little further into, right? It's not enough just to say, like, oh, I'm interested in this neighborhood. You also have to go, I want to know what unit size I want to learn more about, right? Because the next step of this is to actually double click into one of these areas and open up all of the listings that are in there and learn up more about what performs well in that neighborhood for that type of unit size. Because I can tell you right now, a 2 bedroom, 2 bath is different than a 2 bedroom, 1 bath in this neighborhood. As you can see, there's a $20,000 difference here, right? And before I get into that, like the idea is we just want to find something that is showing consistency, showing a good trend. It looks like a strong neighborhood, and then we want to find the strongest unit within that neighborhood. And then based off of the information that we know about that neighborhood, we also want to figure out what we think would be the best, like unit to open up in that area. So like I know that the near north side in the loop is not going to have a lot of 4 bedrooms. So I'm not even going to think about looking into 4 bedrooms, but I am curious about the 2 bedrooms. And I can see when I look right away at the 2 bedrooms that the 2 bedroom, 1 bath does $20,000 less than the 2 bedroom, 2 bath. So really, why would I ever focus on a 2 bedroom, 1 bath? I'm going to focus in on the 2 by 2. And I'm going to get as deep into that as I possibly can, right? So the whole idea here is like once we get a feel for the map and we can see, oh, this neighborhood actually does really well with Airbnb. It's very consistent. There's nice flow. We're seeing nice build up, and then we see like some really high profitable numbers in certain sections. It's like we've now confirmed that the neighborhood is good. We've confirmed that a certain unit size does well, and now we're like, let's dive deeper into this. Let's get into it, right? And that's what the whole point of understanding this map is all about, is being able to pinpoint what unit size in what neighborhoods do the best. And so now that I've walked you through my entire thoughts of everything here, you should be able to do that as well. And like I said, I'm going to rewatch this entire video, pull out a profit map, or sort of create a checklist for you so that as you're going through, you're looking for those same things. And I hope you're taking notes as we're going through the entire thing as well. So anyways, hope you enjoyed all this. And let's, like, for your own profit map, start looking at it, start going through it, make sure you understand your neighborhoods, trying to find the little spots that do well, better than others and more consistent, whatever it may be. That's what I want you to do right now, and pick a handful of areas and unit sizes that you see that are performing well, and then we're going to dive deeper into them as we get into the next stages of this. All right, so I hope that was helpful, and let's head over to the next video.